Well, the saga continues in Oregon's third most populated county with a very slow vote count from last Tuesday's election. The biggest development today, well, we learned that the county elections created their own test ballots, printed them in Clackamas County, and ran them through the tally machines instead of testing actual sample ballots from the printer in Bend, which made all the ballots that actually went to the voters. That's sort of like eating a tomato out of your own backyard to guess how the ones from the store are going to taste. The tally machines are rejecting 2/3 of those ballots now. It may total 60,000 that need to be duplicated by hand. Second, none of the duplication has happened since Wednesday. Instead, all the ballots are being prepared and run through the tally machines, and the rejected ballots are being stacked in ever-growing piles. The hand duplication on those ballots will not start until Monday. This is a huge deal. At a time when some are already skeptical of our voting system, this creates a lot more doubt. You have been talking to us a lot about this over the last few days. Here's one caller who talked about trust.
I live in Clackamas County, rural Clackamas County, and I don't trust anybody to mark my ballot when I already marked it, and also that hiring another 100 people, there's a likelihood that they're going to make a mistake again. And I don't trust them in counting the ballots at all.
But Carlos thinks this is a bunch of noise about nothing. He wrote in to say, "I think you may be manufacturing outrage. Oregonians are mature enough to wait a couple of weeks for election results, and I am always more confident of the results when each ballot is hand-checked with someone from both parties looking on." Although Tim countered that, writing, "As a Clackamas County resident and viewer, I am once again extremely disappointed with our county clerk." And Lisa wants to know, where were the commissioners? Why were they not more closely monitoring what was taking place in the elections office? Today was not the day to invite a report from Sherry Hall. She's the clerk. It should have been asked for several months ago and continued weekly until the election. So, lots of comments, lots of questions, and lots of rejected ballots, likely 60,000 that will have to be duplicated by hand. And I realize I already said that once, but really, it is a staggering amount. Let's take a look at what happened and what should have happened. In Clackamas County, the vote tally machines have had a busy week. More than 90,000 ballots have come back from voters, and the machines are spitting out on average 64% of them. The rejected ballots have problems with the printing of the barcodes on them and are being stacked in piles that await teams which will carefully copy them by hand onto new ballots. Under state law, the entire vote counting process is required to be tested no later than 7 days before an election, and Clackamas County did meet that mark, testing the machines on May 3rd, 2 weeks before the election. But listen as Sherry Hall, county clerk who is in charge of elections, explains where the ballots came from that were run through the machines.
Those ballots were printed here, not by the printer. They were perfect.
She said it's the way they've always tested the machines, with ballots they print, not the ballots from the outside printer who creates the actual ballots that are sent to voters. Later that same day, elections started running real ballots.
And that's when we noticed the problem.
And by then, it was too late to fix. In Multnomah County, which sent out roughly 560,000 ballots, that test required by state law was done 5 weeks before the election, enough time to fix any problems. And there were none, by the way. And Multnomah County uses sample ballots from the printer that makes the voter ballots.
We use the same printer to print our, what we call our logic and accuracy test ballots. So the ballots that we use to prove that the tabulation system is programmed correctly. So they are printing those ballots as well, which are real ballots. They are just pre-marked in a predetermined way so that we can test how the system is tabulating ballots that are marked. And for this election, that was about 25,000 ballots that were part of our full logic and accuracy test, and we ran all those well before any real ballots went through.
Wow. Okay. So initially you're getting 25,000 ballots. You're running those through. You're making sure the machine's counting correctly, but you're also making sure the machine can read the ballots and that everything is working properly.
That's correct.
Washington County uses a similar system. They sent us this video showing their vote counting process. They ran the state-required test on May 5th and used more than 14,000 sample ballots from the same printer that made their real voter ballots. They found no problems. And over the several weeks leading up to the 5th, they ran 100,000 sample ballots from the same printer through the machines to test other parts of the tally system. Clackamas County Clerk Sherry Hall was asked about that today. Why not use sample ballots from the outside printer and get them much earlier?
We've talked about that because if we had ballots printed by the external printer, we might have known about this problem. But it's the timing of it all that doesn't allow that sometimes because of the printer scheduling each of their customers, just different things.
Well, that's not very reassuring, is it? All right, here's my opinion on all this. First, I feel bad for Sherry Hall as a human being. It must be awful to have every move, every public decision under a very public magnifying glass like this. But at the same time, it's hard to say the management of this election was anything but haphazard. For some reason, she's letting her printer tell her when the ballots will be ready. Listen, with a major government contract like this, she should be setting and enforcing the print deadlines and reviews, and they should be far in advance of the election. And if the timeline is tight because her office is not getting the printer the information they need earlier, well, then that's on her as well. Second, it's unbelievable that Clackamas County Elections is printing their own test ballots and not using ballots supplied by the outside printer. The entire purpose of the logic and accuracy test required by state law is to check that the machines are counting the votes correctly and that the machines can read the actual ballots. Now, to be fair, the law does not spell out that the test should be run using the same printer as the ones making the actual ballots, but I have to suspect it's because no one ever imagined you would do anything other than that. I mean, it's kind of like a dad lobbing easy baseballs to their child in the backyard and hoping the real pitcher they face in a game will be just as easy. I mean, it might work, but you're really taking a chance. And this time the county, and more importantly, the voters in Clackamas County, lost. And that's bad for everyone, including Sherry Hall. Well, that's my opinion. What do you think? You don't have to agree with me, but you do have to talk to me. Send me an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com or leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. I look forward to hearing what you have to say on that.